How's it going there, my man?
Hey!
Is it just me, or does it feel like we do one of these every 3 or 4 days?
Man, it's starting to seem like that after what is almost 200 podcasts coming to you twice a week for what next month will be 2 years. Yeah, it's been about every 3 or 4 days for the last 2 years.
A lot of anniversaries going on.
That's right, a lot of anniversaries coming. We'll have our 2-year podcast anniversary next month. The big 200 podcast, episode 200. In what, next week or the week after?
I think we're 198 today, so it'll be next week.
Wow, we're big time in it.
Big time in it. I got confused because I left Ironman, Wisconsin Monday morning, went to my parents, and I drove home Tuesday, and I kept thinking I had driven home Monday. So I thought today was actually going to be Wednesday yesterday. So
yeah, don't be trying to take away a day for us. It is it's Thursday, which is we'll just say we'll call it Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll call it today Friday. So if you're listening to this, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
So
have you recovered from the post Ironman spectatorship? Because I had a lot of athletes, obviously, that raced it, and I had quite a few, probably 5 to 7 that went and spectated. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say the spectators are still struggling. Mm-hmm. And the ones who raced it are feeling okay.
Yeah, I have a real kind of mixed feeling going on. Yeah, I'm trying. I think I've recovered from spectating, I believe, but I haven't recovered from the drive. And
yeah, the drive is brutal too.
And I came back Tuesday, and yesterday was Wednesday, and I went out and did that my first ever FTP test. And boy, those things can gas you.
They definitely can if they're paced appropriately and done well. They will leave you absolutely flat out torched. Mm-hmm. And what else can leave you torched?
What?
Trying to explain to you numbers and readings on Power Meter via text message. I
felt that. I was like, here I go again. Another question.
I just got on the trainer, and I was like, Alan and I went out to eat for her anniversary last night, and she's like, how was your day? And I was like, well, let me tell you this. I spent at least 20 minutes trying to explain to Mike via text message about what specific numbers and terminology meant about his new Power Meter. So that's how my day went. So that's how my day. But it's good. It's always good to ask questions because a lot of people get a Power Meter just because they think they should get one, and then they just end up with a really expensive speedometer, but they don't know how to, read the numbers that are on there. They don't know what different, there's so much data you can get from Power Meters now. You can get, left leg and right leg readings. There's just so many different things you can get from Power Meter. They just, a lot of athletes don't know how to either train with it, and then they don't know how to analyze to make them better. They don't know what things to look for, and so it's always good to ask questions because most just kind of, fly by the seat of their pants and see what they can produce. But it's much more difficult to figure out the best ways to apply it and then change things as they go.
Mm-hmm. Well, it took me at least 5 or 6 years to get on board. So I think I'm not doing it just for the heck of it. You know what I mean? So it's like
no, and you're getting it at a what I would consider a fairly delicate time.
I know. I know.
You're not going to have a ton of numbers to crunch, but I think it'll be helpful. And if anything, it will keep you, I think, a little more dialed in and motivated on some of the rides you'll have coming up, and so that will yield a much better result.
Yeah, well, this weekend we're doing 2 long rides back to back, and I'm going to ride with it and see how it goes. And like I just want to make sure that I'm not getting, kind of like in over my head or trying to get too heady about everything. And if it feels fine and it works good, I want to make a decision, if that's the right thing for me to do on race day. And it probably will be, but I also, like, honestly, what I sent you, the numbers and everything, that's about kind of what I thought I would be. And I've been going by feel for so long, and I want to play around with the feel of it and just see what that means to me. And if I can feel like, I'm comfortable with it and everything, and I can just, I feel like it's going to give me a better consistent stroke and things like that, and I'm going to be able to get off the bike with a better run opportunity, then I'm in. But I may, I'll probably use it,
Yeah, let's be honest. You're going to use it. You've got it. You're going to use it.
In the race, I'm talking about.
Oh, I know you're going to use it in the race, and I think you should, if anything, to hold you back. Because I can already tell you're feeling a little bit saucy about the bike.
What do you mean saucy?
You're feeling a little confident about the bike.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident.
Yeah.
But I always kind of do. I just. I think you're right. This is what's going to be fun. I'm really excited, actually, to kind of just keep going out there and trying it. I was going to do it yesterday, but I was just gassed, man. I was like, got hot in the afternoon. It was really nice.
Yeah, it's heated up here. It's going to be, like you said, we've got a double ride this weekend. I actually have quite a few athletes coming in town. And hey, if you're anywhere within like the vicinity of Nashville, we have a long ride Saturday and Sunday. We'll be meeting at the first rest stop on Natchez Trace to ride long Saturday. So it's going to be hot and windy. I saw. So yeah, so much for the cooler fall temps we had here the last 3 or 4 days with the Hurricane Florence coming in. So yeah, we'll be having that. And hey, if you didn't know already, this is actually the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast. Today's September 13th, Thursday. It's 9:09 Central Standard Time. And speaking of Hurricane Florence, we hope you're all staying safe, you East Coasters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I gotta be honest. I don't follow news, and I don't know. I just haven't seen a lot of, but I heard about it, and I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention. But hopefully, it's not too bad, is it?
I really don't know much about it either, because me, I don't watch the news either. I just know what my athletes tell me, and really via Training Peaks on why they can't get workouts in.
Oh, okay.
That's really the extent that I know. But then Erica Jakowski asked me if Nashville was in the cone of the hurricane, and I just said, well, if being in the cone means hot and windy, then yes, we are in the cone.
We're in the cone, like the ice cream cone where the last bit melts over the edge. It doesn't really do much damage, probably.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's hot and windy here, and it'll be tough conditions coming up here towards the end of the week for our long rides. But that's good. That's good for everybody. It'll be a good day. But what you got? You got a few topics on your mind today?
Well, we'll get into that in a second.
You got more stuff you want to ease into, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I was just unboxing my brand new juicer.
Oh, geez, here we go.
Well, it's funny. I drove to Wisconsin. I brought my juicer with me, and I left Monday morning and forgot it on my parents' counter. So, good for them, and now good for me. But I went out and got kind of a cheaper version because I was on a roll. And
yeah, speaking of roll, your juicer makes it sound like we're the Rich Roll podcast right about now.
It's just, for me, it's not necessarily a lifestyle. It's just a supplementary kind of make sure I get some good stuff once in a while. Mm-hmm. But I was at Walmart last night, which is probably the worst place in America.
Seriously.
And I picked up a few cheap running shorts. I think this might be in my new plan because, man, my running, you buy some nice running shorts, and within 2 or 3 runs, they just smell like the worst. What do you call those things when you throw compost?
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I'm just buying cheap shorts from now on. $6. running
I think
shorts.
that's the way to go. Or if you can be like me, you can be like me and you just don't ever get new running shorts until they become so appalling that your wife and your athletes get you some new pairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so like Erica again, like when she came to visit for camp, the good athletes always give you a kind of a homestay gift for saving them some cash. And I got honey stinger waffles and 2 brand new pairs of shorts.
Oh, well,
yeah, and my wife immediately went upstairs and threw out my old ones.
Maybe that's the product we're looking for, disposable shorts, C26 disposable.
Disposable shorts. Man, that would be great.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be kind of something. I'd probably still keep mine just because I just I'm a big reuser. But
yeah, you could save them for a few runs, a couple bucks.
If they can make
Goose $2.
No kidding. And if they can make disposable contacts, then hey, we can go with disposable shorts.
All right, I got a few things I forgot to mention. From Wisconsin that kind of moved me, and then we can move on to your topic of the day. Did you see that video I just posted by any chance?
I did. I saw that you posted. I have not had time to.
Okay, it's in the closed group. You can find our closed group by going to Crushing Iron Group. Search Crushing Iron Group on Facebook. And anyway, it's just we were out late at the finishing shoot at Wisconsin, and it's really cool to go out there late. This is the second year in a row I've hung around, and they come around the corner, and then they start coming down the road, and then towards the end there's the red carpet area, and that's about where we were standing. And you can't see. There's a lot of people leaning out and whatever. I heard a big roar. And it was this guy pushing this woman in a wheelchair, and they were just going crazy for her. And right when they got to the red carpet, I kind of looked back, and there was about, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 athletes running down behind her. And right when she got to the red carpet, they all just stopped. And that feeling when you come around, you just want to run through the thing. And just for them to hold back, they just stood there and let her have the whole red carpet the whole way. Man. And I was just getting chills, man. And I put the video, I showed her kind of going by, and then I showed these guys just standing there, and there's I think a woman or two coming behind, and she's kind of like running and going, what is going on? And then she sees, and she stops, and they all just waited for her to get through the finish line, and then 2 by 2, they just took off and let each other have their moments too. Man. And that was awesome. I also want to mention one thing cool I saw with the winner, the female pro, Linsey Corbin. I was out on State Street, and she came running through out in the lead, and she went up, and that bottom part of State Street where there's that turnaround where you go up and you turn around. I was kind of videotaping. I think I might have some of this on camera, but she was just sort of like, she's leading the race, right? And she's going up that street and walking around the corner. She kind of stops and goes over and starts high-fiving kids and everything like that. And I just thought that was like really cool, to be out in front of that race and taking time to
everyone.
Just crush. Yeah, of course she was. She knew she was probably like 40 minutes in front, but
yeah, I mean, so she could do that. And,
but still, I heard that she was doing that all day, just kind of high-fiving kids, and that's just something you don't ever see from pros. They kind of get that laser
because they can't do it,
right?
Because they're usually fighting for every single second, that they have. But no, I think, and if you've ever, she's someone who's been in the sport for such a long time and always. You'd probably be hard-pressed to find any athlete or even professional that has a negative thing to say about her.
Oh, really?
Always a class act and work hard and, the consummate pro. But yeah, I'm sure to be able to do that, and hey, I'm sure to be sponsored by Trek and do that at Wisconsin was probably a nice little kicker as well. But
she broke the bike course record.
Yeah, and the course record. So yeah, it's always. Triathletes always get a bad rap because they, they're selfish and they're prima donnas and they're divas and they only care about themselves and, they're never willing to help. And it's, and that's how the world is anyway. It's just like, the news. Only the horrible, like outrageous things get, publicity or get noticed, and like the outrageous things. And that's the same thing with any kind of like stereotype. But most triathletes are pretty selfless in terms of giving their time and their advice and expertise. And then, like you said, like that moment at the end of the race in terms of helping people and, And I mean, I've had athletes even before, like in that, like leaving notes on like a post race thing, like that they like stopped and helped somebody in the middle of a race. You know, it's like, I mean, if you think about it, there's really only like 3 to 5% of the people participating in a race that have a legit shot or that want a legit shot and think they do of competing for a specific spot on the podium to get X, Y, or Z. The rest of them are just kind of out there to do it and to say that they did it or to beat their previous time and to do the best that they can. And so they're willing to stop. They're willing to help. They're willing to cheer. I mean, you see a lot of times at the end of Ironman races or in 70.3s, you know, people kind of pair up and run together with someone. You know, because it always does. It always helps. Anytime you can take a moment and take your focus out of yourself, I think you tend to do better. Because it relieves pressure and it makes you feel better about yourself in general. So I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, man. I've been thinking about that a lot because you always hear, you know, people like will post in our group a lot of times that, you know, they were, you know, having the best time and, you know, like saying hi to people and high-fiving kids and, you know, thanking volunteers and on and on and on, you know, like doing just, you know, really being selfless or sort of like grateful out there. And they always say it was my best race ever. And I was doing all this stuff, and, you know, and there's this fine line between, you know, because somebody had asked me the other day if, you know, they're coming to Louisville and they're like, hey, I'll run with you out there on the run for a little while. I was like, you know, I get kind of in a weird place on the run and, you know, I'm not real talkative, you know, but it made me think like, you know, I guess maybe until the end, if you really want to try and do your hammer down, if you got anything left kind of time. But, you know, it's really almost like you said, getting out of your head and the time just passes. And I think there's something to it. I mean, you know, just really trying to, we talk about have fun, right? Mm-hmm. But, you know, I don't think a lot, you know, I don't know if I necessarily do that, you know, like, but sometimes I talk about like some of my better swims are when I'm like looking up in the mountains or the hills or wherever I am in the river and just kind of.
You see mountains when you swim?
Oh yeah.
Where are you swimming?
I know that's what came to mind.
Are you holding out on me? Like you got some super secret swim hole with mountains and streams and shit?
It's like, it's a great place, dude. I bought a yearly pass out there and it's a little drive, but I think what came to mind was Lake Logan when I said that.
Okay, yeah, Lake Logan.
Are those mountains, technically?
Those are definitely mountains.
Okay,
yeah. Lake Logan.
But like those types of swims are the ones that, you know, kind of keep me, you know, out of that, anywhere into that stress, anxiety zone or whatever, and it's just letting your body flow. So, but I think it's an interesting topic because there is this idea that you got to kind of keep the focus and the hammer down, and I think we've talked about this a little bit. It's almost like, can you come in and out of that place, you know?
Well, I think it's who was I having this conversation with? Oh man, I can't remember. It was a text conversation and then a subsequent phone call that I had on, I think, Monday or Tuesday with an athlete. They had both done Wisconsin. One was a text message exchange, and then the next one was a phone call. And something that I was kind of alluding to, because one of them was talking about, you know, the mental aspect of racing, and you got to be mentally strong, and if you're not, then things can kind of fall apart from the chin up, and if they do, then things automatically fall apart from the neck down. And that to me is easily, without question, the biggest difference between bumping up from a 70.3 to a full. Mm-hmm. Is or anything short, like 70.3 or shorter. It takes a little bit of mental engagement, but then it's mostly physical. But when you bump up to an all-day event, you have to be mentally, emotionally, and physically on. And if one of those start to falter, you're done. Your day's done. And I would argue that you need to be mentally and emotionally on much more than you need to be physically on. At both ends of the spectrum, because if you even have a crack or a sliver of doubt or negativity or quit in your mental and emotional game, then at the first sign of turmoil or obstacles or I'm not feeling it, you're just going to cave. You're going to be done. You're either going to let down, you're going to slow back, you're going to be tentative, or you're going to just call it a day. And a 70.3, you can kind of get away with it because it's so much shorter. And you're going harder, but it's a much more physical thing in my opinion. But like I think people like the biggest thing I don't think people understand about when they bump up to a full is, let's say the average finisher is a 14-hour person. I'd say most races is between like 13 and 14 hours is around the average, like the median for some of these races. You know, the easier ones maybe a little bit lower, but regardless, most athletes are up at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even get in the water until 7. So you're up for almost 4 hours after probably not sleeping that great. And then you're going to be out exercising / racing for 13 to 14 hours or longer. That's 18 hours.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Like, think about that. Like, remember one of the first things I recalled, like, post my first Ironman was I did it, and then a couple of days later I went to work. Remember, I got into work at like 7, and then I didn't leave till like it was late. I worked long hours, and I think I didn't leave work until 8. I was like, man, I'm exhausted. Oh, yeah. and that was still shorter than what I did, because I think my first Ironman was like 13 or 14 hours, but I was like, that was still shorter than what I did when I actually swam, biked, and ran for the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't think people really understand like how much that does to you, and that you have to be you have to mentally and emotionally have it, and if you don't, things are going to fall apart. And some of the best races people have, I remember us saying, I smiled the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, like they take themselves out of, I think, what really hinders so many people in training and in racing, regardless of distances, this pressure they put on themselves. That's 99 times out of 100 unwarranted and undeserved.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can tell. I mean, I just spent the weekend up at Wisconsin around all these people and positive energy and the whole time. And then I got back here and I was basically in my own house alone again and everything. And you can almost sense like that. It really takes energy out of you. You know, while you're talking about that 70.3 and like how you're going harder and versus like an Ironman, how you have to, you know, back it down a little bit and space it out over the course of twice the distance. If you think about it, like the harder you're going, the harder it is for your mind to really wander because you're so focused. But like as you back it down, and then maybe as you start walking, because you always hear about like when you're walking, people have the best ideas. You know, just like go on a walk, you have a great idea or a great talk, and that's when I think you're kind of in that place, right, where your mind may start to wander, and you have if you let it go the wrong way, rather than saying, you know, like, you know, talking to people or whatever the case may be on the sidelines. You can go down a weird road because you are taking energy or your effort out, or you know, even if you're just jogging slower or whatever in an Ironman in general, going at a slower pace, I think that there's that opportunity for your mind to start taking over more, rather than like yesterday when I'm on that FTP thing. Only thing I thought about the whole time was breathing. You know, it's like I was just like sucking air the whole time. I wasn't thinking about anything. And I think it's all relative as you go down the intensity scale. And I think that's such a great point, because the emotional part of that is if your mind can go sour. That's why I think people are, if you smile, that, you know, there's proof, right, that if you're smiling that you're just going to generally be a little bit happier, because that's what your body is responding to and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, That's really something to think about, I think, over the course of a long day. Man, when you put it 3 hours before or 4 hours before you even get in the water, you're up. I mean, what do you do in that time, you know? You can't be, like, zoning in, man. Like, what?
Yep.
You know, it's like you can't wake up and just all of a sudden start furrowing your brow and just be like, I'm going to crush this swim. You got to just, like, I mean, you got to ease into that day, too, with some lighthearted humor.
Well, and that's like another underrated part about lack of preparation is that those that fail to prepare in the swim don't have that opportunity. They can't just chill out in the swim and do their role and do their thing and be calm. They immediately start to stress. And so you're stressed and like, and let's like, and I think people forget this too, is like, and we talk about this on other podcasts, is your body doesn't know the difference in stress. Like, I think we've all done, like, you know, a long run or a long ride and felt pretty good afterwards versus something happens or you go through work and you have a huge stressful day and you're just absolutely wiped. Stress is stress, and it does things to your body that aren't great. Yet athletes will always under-prepare in a lot of aspects of the race, especially the swim, because that's just, for whatever reason, that's just how triathletes are. And so can you imagine the difference in, we talk about this ad nauseum, but going to your point about trying to be like using mental and emotional energy at such an early stage, like you're going to, like, listen, if you're going to be excited, you're going to be excited. Your adrenaline's going to be going, the music's going to be pumping, everything's going to be going at the beginning of a race. Your heart is going to be a little higher too, because you're going to be excited and there's people around. That's expected. But would you rather be excited and ready to, like, calm yourself and enjoy the swim knowing that it's just going to be what it's going to be? Or would you rather be already putting out emotional and mental energy to combat the stress because you don't want to panic and you're not sure if you're going to finish the swim? Because then after you get out of the water, you've got another 13 to 14 hours left. And so I also think that's one of the main things that people tend to underestimate is, yes, you want to stay focused on the bike too, because it's mistakes you make on the bike rarely show up on the bike. They're just magnified tenfold once you get to the run. So, and that's the bike either sets you, usually, more oftentimes not, the bike either sets you up for success on the run or sets you up for failure or shortcomings, or however you want to phrase it or word it. The bike is what is going to catapult you to your best day ever, or falling short of a goal. And it's not because of your bike performance; it's because of your bike execution and your bike patience. And I drill that into the athletes that I work with, and like Wisconsin, because we were just talking about it, is, the race day kind of layout that I gave him, and whatever race 70.3 or full, like the pre-race kind of spiel is always pretty much the same. You don't have the green light until like mile 80, and then even if you got it, you better get ready. So like at Wisconsin, I knew, and I texted him this like the day before, is like, be patient. Mile 80, if you want to push it up, you can, but be prepared for a headwind on the way back, and stay ready for it. And so I was like, thank God I waited to push it, because so many people were just like dropping like flies the last 20 miles with the headwind going back into town. Mm-hmm. And then you got to go run. But it's just there's so many things, like on the bike you're fueling to complete the bike the way you want to execute it, but you're fueling for what will hopefully be your best run performance. Mm. And a missed bottle, or a missed couple goos, or a missed Cliff Bar or Power Bar, you don't think that, listen, that's not going to show up on the bike. A nutrition or a caloric deficit or a fluid deficit you miss like the last hour of the bike probably isn't going to sink in until you get through mile 3, mile 5, because you can listen. You can play catch up on the bike a little bit, because and people ask this question all the time, like, why is my heart rate lower on the bike than it is on the run? Like, you could be going like all out zone 5 on the bike, and it might get you like 170 beats per minute. You could go out and run full speed on a 5K and get up in like the 190s. It's like, because you're having to work that much harder because you're using your whole body. And so take it into two aspects. One, on the bike, you're not having to use your whole body, so your energy expenditure is lower because your heart rate is lower. And then also, not as it lower, but it also allows you to take in more calories and fuel because it is lower and your energy is lower. Versus you get behind on the run where your energy is higher and your body is asked to do more, and then what is the same? It's even harder to take in calories. And like those are like two of the main, like two of the biggest things that I couldn't like stress enough to an athlete is understanding that difference on why you're feeling the way you are on the bike, and why it's important to try to shove in like 300 to 350 calories an hour on the bike. Because on the run, if you really want to run it, good luck getting in like even 200, on the run, because you just can't, because hopefully you're running the whole thing. It's amazing. Like you could ask me like, oh, what's easier? Riding your bike in zone 2 and taking down a bar or in a bottle, or even like walking fast and consuming calories on the run course. I think most people would say I'd rather be on the bike, like zone 2 chilling. And even like fast walking, it's hard because you're breathing out your mouth more than likely. And so once you get on the run, good luck. It's just really, really, really hard to play. You can't play catch up because you've already been caught. Versus, what you want to do on the bike is set you up for success to fuel your run, and it's very, very important.
Yeah, going back.
I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but
no, it's a good tangent. I mean, I think and that's what I heard at the end of the day from everybody was what you're saying about, and it's just this thing, right? Like we know that usually at Wisconsin, I mean, wind is like unpredictable, but it seems like it's pretty predictable that it's going to be in your face on that last 20 or 30 miles. And it's one of those things that, yeah, I got it. It's like, but you don't got it. You know what I mean? Like,
Nope.
and then that becomes the story of the whole bike ride, because, oh my God, it was so windy out there. It may not have been, well, you had the wind at your back for the first 30 miles when you were going 22 miles an hour or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't a problem then, but that translated into your problem later. But, it's like, it's funny. It took so long for me to realize, that whole thing you were just talking about, why the bike is, the heart rate is lower. And I mean, your weight is on the saddle. I mean, you're not holding up your body weight.
It's a lower body. It's a lower body. It's not a whole body
explanation. But yeah, your saddle's holding a ton of your weight up. So you don't have to, whatever. But that's just a simple little thing that I think. I mean, especially took me a long time to even just grasp, because you feel like you're putting out crazy energy on that bike, but you're not supporting your whole frame. But yeah, I love that. You can't. What did you say? You can't catch up because you're already caught.
Yeah, you're not. It's not like, oh, I can just catch up. No, good luck. And you can get caught up, but it's going to take a lot slower of a run or straight up walking. And so you are caught. Your goal has been caught and surpassed in terms of going under it. So it's just one of those really, really important. You can have the greatest game plan ever, and you can feel the greatest you've ever felt in your entire life, and bring in the best fitness you've ever brought into any race. And if you fuel terribly and your nutrition isn't on point, or you fail to do one thing, then none of it matters.
Yeah,
none of it. It matters zero. And it's so funny because like everybody understands that in training, and like I don't know why, my today's workout was so bad. Maybe it was like the margaritas and cheese dip from last night. Yeah, that's probably got something to do with it. Or this workout was brought to you by jelly beans. You're like, yeah, that's probably not the best idea either. It's just if it's little things like that can ruin a 45-minute workout. What do you think that a failure or a blip in nutrition can do to a 13-hour day?
Mm-hmm. And I think it was one of the last podcasts where you're talking about this thing about how 1 mile out of control on the run can screw up your race.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking about at Wisconsin because, first you had that into the wind situation, the last 20 some miles or whatever that people were under prepared for or whatever. And then as you got off the bike, there was construction on the normal bike or run out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've done Wisconsin, you come out of the helix and you run up that little street and then you kind of go out. There's a little bit of a hill there. Coming out of transition, it's a little bit of a gradual, slow climb on the traditional course. Well, this year they ran you back through the bike transition, and then kind of not down the helix, but like down this hill, and then. So I was standing waiting for and I realized actually I walked up that hill, and it's a pretty steep little hill coming right out of transition, and I was watching people like take off out of there to get on that run, and they were running up that thing pretty hard, and I think it was just something that a lot of people maybe not have been prepared for, and it's a little thing, but. That first mile at Wisconsin is the one we always tell people to be careful of because, there's so many people around and you're running down State Street and you can get out of your head real quick.
You're flying.
So, but add to that the fact that you got like it's like a 1 block pincher coming out of transition now, or at least this year. It'll probably be done next year. But I think that may have had a little effect on some things. I don't know. There's little things like that. Like you're saying all the time, you got to play it smart. And I'd have looked at that hill and been like, I feel like going, but man, this might be a bad idea right now.
Yeah,
this is like a mini FTP test.
Listen, it's all, everything is about return on investment. Every decision, like I honestly believe you should look at your Ironman race day as like a business. Everything you do should be thought about the end game. What's going to allow me to be the most successful throughout the entire day to where I can end up and I can close shop and be done and have been a great success? Is that going to mean spending a ton of wasted money and energy the first 20 miles of the bike, even though it looks good and feels good? Or is it better to be that reserved, patient, investor that's like, nah, that's probably not a good idea. It might look good and everybody's going for it, but I know what my plan is, I know what my goal is, and I'm going to stick to it because I want to plant the seeds to bear fruit later. I don't want to go, buy some fruit I can't afford, which is what a lot of people do, and like something I was thinking about yesterday in terms of you, and we won't go off on like some big power tangent. But the analogy I was thinking with you yesterday is like when these athletes approach their like a full distance, like if you're using power, you have your average power and your normalized power. Obviously, your average power, the number it gives is your average power for the whole day. The biggest also number you look at is what your normalized power is. Your normalized power takes into account, especially in a course like Wisconsin, what your surges were. If you crammed it up hills and went way out of your zone and then coasted down hills, you're going to have a huge variance, VI or variability index. So you might have an average watts of like 200, but your normalized power, let's say it's like 220. Well, your normalized power doesn't make you go faster. Your average power is how fast you went. Like they have these software programs like Best Bike Split where you can put in, your bike, your body weight, all this kind of height, all these kind of things. And if you put in your average watts, and it'll give you pretty close to like what your estimated time riding the course will be. And it's based on your average power. It's not based on your normalized power. Your normalized power, and the way you look at it, should be this. This was the cost of doing business. Mm-hmm. My normalized power was the cost of doing business today. You don't want your cost of business to be 220 and your average power, in your return to be 200. You want your cost of business to be doing like 250, 210, 205, and my return was 200. You don't want a huge variance because you don't get bonus points for variance. You actually get negative points. But in terms of like the long day, it's everything, every decision you make, and that's going back to like what you were saying. And I put this in the email or text, I think, is like every decision you make from the time the gun goes off, you should think, through the list of, is this a smart decision, and is what I'm about to do or choose to do now going to allow me to run my best the last 13 miles? If the answer is yes, then do it. If the answer is maybe, probably not. If the answer is no, then obviously no. But you have to have that patience and that kind of like calm confidence. And listen, I even 100% will admit to you, I totally forget about this as a coach when I'm tracking athletes. Like, I don't even know why I track them in the swim and on the bike. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. It's like, it matters because I like to see they're doing well. They're not like off the bike or they get out of the swim. I'm still going to do it. Every coach does it, I think. But for the ones that are like looking to get on a podium, it's like, what the hell? I don't even care, because none of it matters. None of it matters until mile 12 and 13. None of it. One of our athletes was on the podium in Wisconsin, and I think the two guys that ended up winning that, or the age group, weren't even in like the top 10 or 12 coming off the bike. They made up over 30 minutes on the run.
Really?
The two guys that came off the bike first dropped out into like the 3 and 4 spot, or 4 and 5 spot, maybe even off the podium. It doesn't matter. You know how easy it is to pick up 30 minutes on the run on somebody? A minute and like 5 seconds per mile. Which you might sound like a lot, but it's not at the end of an Ironman. Miles 13 through 26, mm-hmm. You see a lot of people go from 9s to 11s. Okay, well now you're going to catch them in like 7 miles. And it's none of it matters. None of it matters. Your gray day could be done, and you see it. Like if you ever tracked people, or you've tracked an athlete you're coaching, or your friend that wants to make it on the podium, and you go and you look and you're like, but they got it. Oh well, there they go.
Yeah, I know.
And they get off, like, listen, getting up, like, listen, now there are quite a few athletes, especially I think in the younger age groups, that come off the bike first or second, they're like, yeah, they're going to win the whole thing, because they're just that good. But they're well rounded. Mm-hmm. But more oftentimes you see an athlete come off the bike in first or second and never hold and then fade. But even the ones that are that like at elite level, they still have to have the patience to know, you can go ahead, I'll see you in a bit. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to, and that was like, and I love it. Like that was some of the best feedback we got from that, I think, Thursday podcast. So a week ago was how to like execute and be patient on the bike. We got like tons of emails and some Facebook messages, and it was like, I'll see you later. I'll see a little bit, but you have to have that calm, quiet confidence, because you are racing and you are competing against yourself and against other people. So when you're getting past, you feel like somebody's beating you or that they're better than you. And so your initial, like, for men, like which is usually the guys, your testosterone, flight or fight, like instantaneous impulse is to, I'm gonna catch you right now. Because we all encounter this guy or that girl on like a training ride, who you'll see him in the distance, you're cruising past him, and all of a sudden you get to him, and then they act like they're all of a sudden like Lance Armstrong, mm-hmm. and then you start because nobody likes to be passed, and so in a race it's no different, and they fight for like dear life to hang on or keep up with you, and then you look back after not changing your effort and pace, and they're not 2 feet behind you, they're like 200 feet. because they just burnt their biscuits, and you can't get, like, listen, once you burn a biscuit, you can't get it back. But that's just, it's one of those things in a race where you have to be so patient and so mentally engaged and confident to know that I gotta wait, and then when it's time, I can't think anymore. I just gotta go. But you can't do that if you've wasted all your mental, emotional, and physical energy early on in the race.
That's good, buddy.
Yeah, here you're taking great. Now you're taking notes for the podcast or notes for yourself on this one?
No, a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
But why is that why is that? I think it's just this whole, you can say, it's the last 13 miles, it's the last 8 miles or whatever on the run until you're blue in the face. But for somehow, some way throughout that course of that race, that just seems so unglamorous to you. You know what I mean? It's like and I think what you're saying, it makes the sense. It's like if you're over swimming and then getting in over biking, and by the time you get to that run in that part, you just don't care anymore. Like it's like all about just trying to finish, and it's like, so what? I don't care. It's like, so it is that patience piece that, and that maturity piece that to be able to recognize, because it must be that flight or fight thing or whatever, because to be on mile 30 of the bike and be thinking that way about like somebody that passed you is kind of silly, but it's such a human tendency.
Every just put it this way, every decision you make during a race should be, would this be the finisher picks option that I picked to purchase? Is it going to be at mile 30 when I'm crushing it up this hill, getting up out of the saddle and dominating and living that story, or is it going to be me, finishing my run with the PR above on the clock? I'm pretty sure it's going to be the one with the PR on the clock. It's the finish. It's when you finish. It's how you finish. It's how well you do when you make these decisions, and what you're trying to do and doing your best. And things are going to come up, and it might not be your day. But if it had the opportunity to be your day, and you just, not purposely, but just like acknowledged that you were just effing it up because of like one moment or a couple moments or just like ridiculous negligence, guess what? You don't even know when the next time you're going to feel that good's going to be. Because there is nothing ever that you can count as like a definite when it comes to races, as long as an ultra distance like an Ironman is. Nothing, zero, is given to you. You could wake up feeling great and have the worst race of your life. You could wake up feeling terrible and sick and have the best race of your life. You have no idea, because it's such a long day and so many things can happen. So if you're feeling good and you're ready to roll, then keep feeling that way to make the decisions that you need to make to have the best day that you can.
Well, I know that in the past, do you think too, because there's a weird, there's splits obviously throughout the race, and then there's this idea of there's these, like the 1 hour swim is kind of a thing, you know what I mean? Like do you ever think, it's like, and then the 6 hour bike, for example, is a thing, so I know I've gotten caught up in, I can't get caught up in the 1 hour swim. That's not like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes people, I think, look at that going, yeah, I got out in under an hour or whatever. And then it's sort of like you or a 6 hour bike. Like I've been out on the bike going, I got to get under this 6 hour mark. And it's just like, that's the thing that it's like, why does that get in my head? And why do I care about that when the real thing that matters is the final, time? And then you start thinking, people think about a 4 hour marathon, for example.
Yeah.
And there's those sort of natural numbers that hit in each sport that I think maybe get into people's heads sometimes, and have certainly got into mine. And that's like just, it's like looking at the first run split, and being like, oh, I got to pick that up, or whatever the case. You start getting into these sections, and you're not realistic about what that could mean over the course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to your point about maybe running without a watch sometimes. Like last year, it was a great example for me. On the Louisville run, I was trying to hold certain paces, and I saw that thing falling off the table, and I kept looking at my watch going, man, I'm getting tired. I can't hold that. And I shut my watch off, and I ended up kind of holding it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I turned my watch off at mile 9, I think, or something like that. And just suffer fested through it. And I thought, I mean, it was the weirdest thing. I think I've talked about it, but I thought I ran a 5-hour marathon, and I actually ran a 4:30. I mean, that's literally how much difference I had in my head.
Yeah.
I had no idea, and I'm like, man, this is going to be an awful finish again. And I somehow pulled off a 4:30, and I don't know. It's just like getting locked into that clock or the numbers too hard can be a real thing, because like you're saying, I mean, I haven't trained with power, for example, but I know that you know, if you're, for whatever reason, the day is bad and it's windier than normal, and you didn't sleep well or whatever the case is, but you're still trying to like just push over that you know, cover that number the whole day, and that might be the mistake.
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes could happen.
Mm-hmm. A lot of mistakes could happen. Let's hope we're not going to make any today.
Well, I've already made some, but you know, it's already 10 o'clock. We've all made mistakes. It's early.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. What
are you up to these days? What do you got going today? Like, you doing any training?
Man, I'm gonna hop on. I'm gonna hit the bike pretty hard here in about, well, not pretty hard, but fairly efforted, very spirited here in a little bit. I wanted to finish up next week's training plans for athletes, and it's funny. It's like I feel like I'm a teacher getting close to like the end of the school year.
Oh yeah.
Like final tests are coming in, final exams are coming in, and you know, we got just at Wisconsin, we got, you know, I got a couple 70.3s coming up this weekend that athletes are racing, and then we got Chattanooga at the end of the month, and then Louisville, you know, and then finishing out with Florida. November's busy too. I got Florida, Arizona, Cozumel. But it's like, it's that end of the year feeling as a teacher where it's like, you know, the workouts are bigger and longer and mean more, and the scheduling is even more important. And then it's also like, I think as a coach, like I get a little bit nostalgic. And I think I was this morning, like, look at Wisconsin, you know, they're kind of done, and, you know, getting ready to recharge and take a little bit of time. And Chattanooga's I got pretty much done, and Louisville's I finished up today. And it's like all these, you do a person's plan, and you kind of think like, God, like it's been like almost a year for some of these people. You know, it's like, I think 80%, 90% of the athletes that I work with, I've worked with for over a year, but it's, if not much longer, but it's, you just can look back, yeah, like how far, and sometimes I'll like scroll all the way back to like the very first week that we had as like working out, and the comments, and like, you know, I don't have any idea how I'm going to do this or today's, you know, and like, then you get to see like all their improvement in their races, you know, to date. And then it's just like, it's a, you know, it's such a long time. Like a year is a long ass time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pardon the language, but it's just like, it flies by, but it goes so slow too. But it's, it's a little bit, you know, kind of going down training memory lane with athletes, and then knowing how important it is. And then it's always great, you know, like there's nothing like coaching with an athlete and have them like finish their best, you know, and just finishing, you know, like the smile on their face, and like you see so many, you see like the video or the picture of them finishing a big race or whatever, but you get like, it means like 18 paragraphs and not like just a couple words. It's like a coach when you've worked with them for so long, and it all means different things. But it's nice to know that I have like the decoder ring, because like, you know, like they'll post a picture of their Ironman finish, and I actually know when they're like, you know, what their whole year, what they went through for their whole entire year, you know, all the ups, all the downs, all the difficult times, you know, that had nothing to do with training, that was life and relationships and work and all the things they overcome, and the days where they doubted themselves, and the days where they hated it, and the days they didn't want to do it, and the days they're like, I don't even want to do this anymore, or I'm not in a funk. And then also times they were in the zone and doing things they never thought they could ever do in their entire life. And so it's fun. It's also a fun time. It's all fun, but it's a cool time of year to be really invested as a coach when you have athletes doing these kind of things, and at any distance, because it's all things they've never done before or wanted to do, or getting faster or going farther. And it's fun to take that little quick trip down memory lane and then see people finish, and then know that you kind of got a small part of that journey. So it's fun.
Yeah, and I'm going to take this time to thank you for making some adjustments on my schedule.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, dude. I mean,
are you sure you should be thanking me?
Well, I mean, I glazed over it, and no, I am. I think you're right on again. I mean, usually are. I mean, we talk a lot, obviously, so you kind of know where I'm at mentally and emotionally. But I went to Wisconsin. I didn't have a bike thing, so I kind of did a lot of running. But now we got. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do, and I think you've, in a precursory sort of glance, I think you're right on what I was hoping, and it actually is weird how I've talked about this, but like how over the last couple months, being back on your plan, it's really weird, like as a quasi self-trained type guy a lot of times, but just to get into that, I mean, it's taken a lot of pressure off me. I'm looking at, there's a lot of work to be done yet, and I'm excited about doing it, but it does take a lot of pressure off me, because I start wavering and start wondering what the hell I'm doing, and then when I see it making sense in the way you stack stuff and cover ground, and it just feels a lot better, even though there is a lot of stuff you got on there for me. But I appreciate it. Huh?
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We're going to Chattanooga. I'll probably just bring my trainer down there and ride like 18 hours. I'll be out in a minute.
Chattanooga, great city. If you've never been, make sure you go. A great event, great Ironman event, and one of our team races for next year. So if you're thinking about doing it, it's like the 70.3 Wisconsin version. You can park your car and never have to drive again. There's plenty of things to do. There's plenty of water. They love you. They love the outdoors, and the town absolutely loves it. Mm-hmm. That was like one of the things. I think I sent you a screenshot of when we were up there this last weekend.
That was cool. They had
an article in the newspaper or some local magazine that it's generated like over $100 million for the city.
Wow,
that's insane. Since it came, $100 million, and then it talks about. The Ironman Foundation, which is something that people forget a lot about too, and like all the different charitable places within Chattanooga that it's actually that it's given money to, and so it's the city loves it, and kind of like we had the Ohio race director on. He was saying like, it's always not about the location. It's about how the city and the officials love the race, and they love it there. So if you're going to be in Chattanooga, make sure you say hi to Mike, and I will be there with bells on, walking around. And listen, like, I understand that A, I'm not single, and B, I'm not half as good looking as Mike is.
All right, let's wrap it up.
If you could, still make me feel like I'm a decently contribute. I contribute like a decent aspect and portion of this podcast when you meet us, and don't just kind of like shove me out of the way, fangirl TMZ to get your picture with Mike. I'd appreciate it. Maybe a shake of a hand is fine, but just listen. I know that it's gonna be like walking around with Bono. I get it. I'm prepared for it. But like a handshake is fine.
Don't make me break out my black leather jacket, dude.
I know, man. But yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody, and please will come up and say hi.
And it's we're not this one, but for sure next year in the 70.3, we are having a hotel takeover.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, so we'll probably be giving Chattanooga about $500,000 ourselves.
Exactly.
But yeah, we'll be hanging. We'll be hanging at the full. Both of us not racing.
Yep. And so come say hi, and we'll be cheering for you. And if you have any other questions or comments or whatever it is, you can always email me at c26coach@gmail.com, or you can email Mike directly at crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you have just want more information about all the things that we do, from gear to training camps we have like 74 people signed up for our training camps next year already. They're a great time. You can find more information about that on the website. You can find more information on training and coaching packages on the website as well. I did post in the closed group. I just got done with some quote unquote off-season plans, which we effectively call Q4, which is the end of the year, and then Q1, which is the beginning of next year. I already had some people jump on those. They're really great plans, easy to use and very affordable. Swim analysis, all the other things that you can always go to crushingiron.com for more info on that.
All right, and that'll wrap it up. 198 Crushing Iron Podcast. Thanks for listening. Oh, man.
Well, see you, Maddie, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. See you, buddy.